Jordie rocked goodwill, but he really didn't mind. She made sure he had his hockey gear, and that was all he cared about. Nothing mattered but hockey. Because of that, during school, all the girls did his homework for his attention, and he was glad to provide it. So it wasn't like he was book smart. Street smarts, sure, he could get by with no problem. But his math and his spelling were a little suspect, and he was pretty sure he would need those to do any job a normal person would do. Stroking his beard to keep his hands from shaking from the nerves that were rapid-firing through his body, Jordie bit into his lip. He wasn't good at anything but hockey. Oh, well, and sex. He was damn good at that. He loved it, too. Come to think of it, he was hung like a horse, too, so maybe he could become a porn star? Hey, that wasn't a half-bad idea. Before he could even entertain that idea, the door opened to Ellie's office and she filled the doorway, looking killer in a pair of green heels that should have been illegal. Her auburn hair flowed down her shoulders, curled to perfection, her green eyes piercing and her skirt tight, wrapping around her thick thighs. No one would ever assume that Mrs. Adler was a mommy of 5. She was too hot for that. She may be his boss and even his captain's wife, but Jordie had always had a soft spot for her. It was probably because she'd always been on the chunky side from having so many babies. Jordie loved kids, and he really loved her kids. But as he drank her in, he noticed that Mrs. Adler looked mighty fine and a little leaner. Grinning at her, he slowly stood. "Have you lost weight, boss? Shay not feeding you?" She giggled. "Oh, hush, I'm watching what I eat." "Well, you can tell, and that Shay Adler is a lucky man, boss." As she smiled back at him, his heart slowed a bit. If she was smiling, that was a good thing. Maybe he'd overthought this? "Thanks, Jordie. Come on in," she said in her thick accent that always made him feel like she was 10 seconds away from serving him a big buttered biscuit. Hobbling over, he passed by her, her intoxicating mango scent making him dizzy as she asked, "How's the leg?" Regrouping, Jordie nodded his head. "Healing. I'll be brand spanking new for next season," he answered, holding her gaze. But when she shut the door, he looked up and saw that not only was his agent Charles Bolster sitting by Ellie's desk, but so was the other owner of the assassins, Brian Fisher. Double fuck. Swallowing loudly, he went for an aloof approach and said, "Hey guys, didn't know you were coming too." "I didn't know either," Charles said, annoyed, and that had Jordie's stomach sinking. "Ellie wanted us here," Brian answered, and Jordie's chest clenched. Ignoring the need to flee, he dropped slowly into the seat that was in front of Ellie's desk and glanced nervously over at Charles. He was working his lip, looking over some paperwork in front of him. When he looked at Jordie, he knew he was fucked to the max. His heart started to slam into his ribs as Ellie came around her desk, lowering into her big, puffy teal chair with black trim. Behind her was a massive museum-like display of pictures of her and her family. The sweet faces of her 5 children, that Jordie could honestly say were the greatest kids ever, smiled back at him in different poses and shots. There was even a picture with all of the kids and him, along with some of the other guys from the team. When his eyes settled on that picture, he saw Ellie's oldest, Shelley, was wrapped around him like a koala. She had always been his favorite. She loved to braid Jordie's beard and paint his nails. He never told her no since she was a mini Ellie, and really, he didn't mind. He loved kids. He also hoped that kids were in his future, but he couldn't be dwelling on that right now. Not when his boss was looking at him like he was one of her 5 children and he'd been caught busting the windows out with a hockey puck. "You're probably wondering why you're here," she started, and he shrugged, leaning back in the plush teal chair that was a smaller version of hers. "I've narrowed it down to assuming I've done something wrong," he choked, trying to break the tension in the room. But when her green eyes cut to his, he snapped his lips shut. "You've assumed right," she said.